Galnet News, keeping your galaxy in focus. 15th of September, 3301. In today's top stories, the People's Princess speaks about the succession. Kumo crew to target Lavigny-Duval. Emperor's Dawn bases discovered, and unironically, Emperor's Dawn issues request for supplies. Pegasi pirate war triggers migrant crisis. Research into strange object begins. And new Imperial slave regulations proposed. At a public charity event in which several dozen slaves were granted their freedom, Princess Lavigny-Duval took the opportunity to speak about the succession of the Emperor. She said, quote, "It seems peculiar that as the closest living relative of our beloved Emperor, I'm not involved in the process of selecting his successor. It is even stranger that there is a process at all. After all, I'm the natural heir." End quote. Her attempt to gloss over the legality of her claim has sparked angry rebuttals from legal experts and the camps of the other likely candidates. When we spoke to people on the street, however, we encountered almost universal support for the princess. One Capital resident told us, "I'm all for tradition, but we have to move with the times. Princess Lavigny-Duval understands what we need to do, and has the youthful vigor to make it happen." And the Kumo crew continues to make trouble, as systems under the sway of Lavigny-Duval have begun expressing discontent at the current political situation in the Empire, and the Kumo crew is taking the opportunity to cause trouble of their own. Leaked military intelligence indicates that hundreds of Kumo crew fleets will soon descend on Imperial territory in an effort to cultivate further civil unrest. The plan is apparently to force Duval into admitting the foolishness of the Pegasi war by bringing it as close to home as possible. Operation Uranus saw the Kumo crew pirates target worlds under the influence of Senator Denton Petraeus, but this is the first time they have been bold enough to strike farther afield. Only time will tell what impact this will have on the Imperial power players. The investigation into Emperor's Dawn begins to make headway as, according to the office of Senator Denton Petraeus, Imperial intelligence has discovered several bases belonging to Emperor's Dawn. Senator Petraeus, who is leading the campaign against Emperor's Dawn, has issued a statement confirming that he is initiating a combat operation designed to destroy the insurrectionists. The senator has made the following announcement to the press.
"We are not dealing merely with treasonous sentiments here. We are dealing with a violent organization that has shown itself willing and able to commit truly heinous acts. They have already taken the life of our beloved Emperor. Where might their misguided rage fall next? We must act swiftly and decisively if we are to eliminate this threat to the Empire."
Imperial forces have been mobilized for the operation, but independent pilots are also being called on to lend their aid. Senator Petraeus is offering generous rewards to those who contribute to the campaign. In an interesting turn of events, as news spreads that Senator Denton Petraeus has launched a military operation against Emperor's Dawn, journalists at the Imperial Citizen report that the insurgent group has issued a public appeal for commodities. Significantly, the goods that the group has requested, progenitor cells and narcotics, are illegal in many jurisdictions. Emperor's Dawn has not explained its need for these commodities, but given its militant stance, it can be safely assumed that the goods will be used in its ongoing campaign against the Empire. The organization is understood to have set up delivery points at starports in the Ipiliaka and Chi-Lin systems. The Empire has not issued a response to the appeal, but it is likely that it will implore the public to ignore the request. But with so many independent traders in the galaxy, many of whom have no particular loyalty to the Empire, it seems inevitable that at least some will answer the call of Emperor's Dawn. It has now been over a month since the Pegasi pirate war began, and the weeks of conflict have taken a toll on the people of the Pegasi sector and its surrounding systems. What began as a trickle is now a deluge, as hundreds of thousands of people pour out of the region every day. Conditions at orbital stations deteriorate, as thousands of refugees crowd landing pads and loading docks in an effort to board departing ships. Overloaded transports, often flying without adequate safety systems or defenses, are becoming a common sight in the Pegasi sector. On the receiving end of these desperate efforts are the Imperial worlds least able to manage this flood of warm bodies. Imperial systems such as Heshian's, Xuanbuth, and Farakani are experiencing the largest influx of new arrivals. Once in Imperial space, many refugees immediately seek Imperial citizenship and the protection of the Imperial Navy. Some are even willing to enter Imperial slavery contracts if it gets them away from the Kumo crew. As the operation to defeat Archon Delane and the Kumo crew passes the 7-week mark, citizens of worlds caught in the conflict are asking if an end to the conflict is truly in sight. A recent tactical shift has seen Imperial and Sirius pilots working together to rescue marked slaves and return them to their homes. It remains to be seen whether the migrant crisis will complicate these efforts, or undermine support for the war in the Imperial systems. And swinging over to federal news, a federal research program has been established to study the strange objects discovered in a number of systems, including Tanmark and HIP 102128. The project is being led by Professor Ishmael Palin, formerly of the Homeland Scientific Council. The first of the objects was discovered some months ago, with further objects being found in the weeks that followed. Those who have seen the artifacts firsthand report that they are reminiscent of biological forms, consisting of a spherical bulb-like element connected to a number of cylindrical capsules. Some have even suggested that they might be life forms in their own right. Aside from their unusual structure, the objects, referred to by some as unknown artifacts and dubbed anomalous extraterrestrial objects or AEOs by Professor Palin and his team, are believed to have the capacity to damage nearby machinery, although exactly how this occurs is not fully understood. This made transport of the objects problematic, as they can inflict significant damage on a ship's cargo hold and on adjacent ship systems. Naturally, speculation concerning the objects have been rife, and there appears to be significant evidence that they are of non-human origin. Professor Palin refused to be drawn on the subject. However, he stated,
"A discovery of this kind represents an event of major scientific interest, and I am delighted to have been asked to lead this research project. It would be imprudent of me to speculate on object's origin or purpose. Suffice it to say that my team and I will be subjecting the artifacts to rigorous examination over the coming weeks, and I very much look forward to sharing our discoveries with the scientific community. Понял ты?"
And finally, back in Imperial news, following the recent audit of the Imperial Slave Association, the Imperial Senate Audit Committee has recommended the introduction of further regulations governing the treatment and transportation of Imperial slaves. The proposed regulations center on improved vetting of commanders permitted to transport Imperial slaves, and include the suggestion that pilots must hold the rank of Master in the Imperial Navy as a minimum requirement. It is also suggested that resources be set aside for the recovery of Imperial slaves transported and sold outside the Imperium. Svetlana Zhukov, chairwoman of the ISA, voiced her support of the regulations.
It is our duty to ensure that Imperial citizens serving terms as slaves remain within the borders of the Empire until their return to full citizenship. Our hope is that these new regulations will ensure the rights of Imperial slaves are not trampled on by those unscrupulous enough to sell people for quick credits.
Political commentators have expressed doubt that the proposed regulations will be approved, but many remain hopeful. And that's the Galnet news for today. This has been Chip Washington. Tune in next time to keep your galaxy in focus.